If you are listening to this show and you're managing a team that deals with organic and paid strategy, you're going to need a new playbook very quickly.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your no-fluff guide to artificial intelligence in higher ed. I'm Mallory Willsea, bringing nearly 20 years of edtech and marketing expertise straight to your earbuds. Higher ed leaders are expected to master AI overnight, but let's be real, no one has time to sift through every headline, hot take, or research report. That's why every Monday I'll break down what actually matters, fast, clear, and to the point. Want to sound like the smartest person in the room at your next team meeting? You're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Higher Ed Pulse. On today's episode, AI is now the front door of Google search, the brain behind your campaigns, and the ghostwriter of your ads. If SEO felt hard before, welcome to the new game. We're breaking down what Google's latest AI updates mean for higher ed marketers and what to do when zero-click becomes zero control. Joining me today is Sarah Russell, VP of Marketing at EducationDynamics. With more than 16 years of experience in higher ed marketing, Sarah's seen it all, from SEO and paid search to lead nurturing and full funnel optimization. At Eddy, she leads strategy across channels to help institutions adapt, perform, and grow in an increasingly complex digital landscape. Sarah, welcome to the Pulse. Now, before we jump into today's topic, I was LinkedIn stalking you yesterday, and I saw that you have a certificate in Women in Leadership from Cornell, which jumped right out to me. Listeners know I was just on a keynote panel at the CASE conference in Los Angeles talking about this very topic. So I have to ask you, all about this certificate program because I feel like I need to sign up for it. But can you tell, why did you choose to do this and what did you get out of this program?
Yes, I didn't go into it specifically looking for a women in leadership program. I was just kind of looking for more continuing ed opportunities to grow my leadership skills. But once I saw that program that was available through Cornell, I just flocked to it immediately. It really spoke to me in terms of identifying some of the things that I didn't even know I was maybe falling into pitfalls around, or things where I could be more assertive and understanding my position as a woman in leadership, how that can be a strength and how I can leverage that a lot more effectively maybe than I had been. So I am very pro that certificate program, very pro all of the executive leadership courses at eCornell. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10.
Awesome. I actually just saw that eCornell's hiring a CMO. So if listeners are looking to explore that job posting's out there and the salary looks pretty good too. So cool. All right, Sarah. Well, let's get into today's topic. So you were at Google Marketing Live 2025, and at the event, the company made it official. AI overviews are now the default search experience in the US. And so what that means is millions of users are getting summarized answers first before they see anything, links, ads, or really even think about clicking through. So at the same time, right, you've got that on one side, then on the other side, Google's also reshaping paid media from the AI generated headlines to performance max campaigns that optimize across every surface automatically. As marketers, we're just being asked to give up control, I think, in exchange for performance. And that shift has really big implications for us in higher ed. Search is becoming more about answers than exploration. Organic visibility is shrinking as zero-click results expand. The line between paid and organic is blurring very quickly. And we're being asked to trust the algorithm just, more than we ever have. So if you are listening to this show and you're managing a team that deals with organic and paid strategy, you're going to need a new playbook very quickly. And that's exactly what Sarah and I are going to unpack today. So Sarah, you were literally in the room, but you've also been leading performance marketing efforts in higher ed now for more than a decade. So I know that you've been always keeping a close eye on how platforms evolve. So let's just start here. When you were literally sitting there, what was your gut reaction to all of these announcements and updates from Google?
My immediate reaction is a little bit of okay, here we go again. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We do work in a very dynamic industry. And over the span of my career, I've really seen this space undergo a lot of massive shifts. We had the rise of mobile traffic about a decade ago, increasing dominance of social video over the last couple of years, and now this AI wave. That's really our next big evolution. But it's certainly the most disruptive evolution I've seen in my career, and that definitely raises the stakes. One thing we know is that higher ed can be slow to adapt. So sitting in that room, being surrounded by marketers from across industries, that was the one thing that was really resonating with me is how can we as marketers help drive this level of innovation in an industry that might not always be known for being on the forefront of some of those things. So I think this AI-powered shift is going to separate these institutions that are truly agile, truly student-centric, and then those that are not or are afraid to really embrace what that means. And so the core of our mission in higher ed is how do we connect with students? And to me, this is just a new and sometimes terrifying way to connect with students. And it's a challenge for sure, but it's also a really big opportunity for marketers.
So sometimes the very first connection with a student is unknown to us. It's when they're sitting at home at 10 o'clock at night watching Love Island and at the same time Googling your institution. And with AI overviews, now the default in US search results, like that shift is going to significantly impact how we have that first connection with prospective students who are just looking to discover which institutions are out there and might be a good fit. So if that AI overview then causes fewer people to actually click through to our websites, what recommendations do you have for higher ed marketers around rethinking visibility, attribution, and the success metrics in this environment?
That is definitely the million-dollar question right now. And I think
we're going to unpack it today, all the answers.
I think it's actually interesting because it's sort of forcing a conversation that I think is long overdue in this space about what success actually looks like. Because for years, we've been addicted to the click in search marketing, right? How do I rank higher? How do I improve my click-through rate? But if a student is getting the answer that they need, whether it's your application deadline or the high-level components of one of your degree programs, if they can consume that content directly in an AI overview without clicking through, is that a failure? Or is it actually a new kind of success that we just have to figure out how to value effectively? So there's a behavior shift, and that means we as marketers also need to shift our thinking about how we meet students in that moment. Because as you said, search visibility is less about rankings and more about becoming the source of truth for Google's AI. How does that model of pulling in and synthesizing information rather than ranking links, how does that evolve how we think about content, about the student experience, or really just website optimization in general? And measuring success effectively in this environment definitely requires more sophistication. And we need to start looking at different kinds of metrics like AI density, your search share of voice, or engagement quality. So it's still very much in line with in higher ed, we've always had this overarching goal of generating enrollments. And for a long time, that initial click or initial inquiry was the early indicator of what would lead to that enrollment. So now we just have to redefine new early indicators and how that is then going to kind of trail into that enrollment behavior. So it's going to be different. We'll, I'm sure, make mistakes. It'll be messy, but I feel very confident that we're going to be able to ease into a new model that will still have us very focused on this enrollment behavior, but just redefining what those steps prior to enrollment need to look like.
Yeah, that's not going to be easy. I want to pull two things out that you just said for listeners to just re-emphasize, because the next time you walk into the room with your team, I think you need to be emphasizing these two things. And it's first, the goal is to become the source of truth for AI. And the second is we need to get more sophisticated with measurement, right? So those need to be the two North Stars here. Now, Sarah, in my recent podcast with Marina Cooper, we talked about Meta's dynamic creative tools, and we talked a bit about the tension that now exists between performance and brand voice. And so this feels very similar. Google is auto-generating headlines and can swap creative in real time, and it is all brought to us with the promise of better ROI. It's like deja vu here. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked her. Where do you draw the line between trusting the algorithm and protecting your brand? And how would you recommend a higher ed marketer make sure that performance is not coming at the expense of their tone or their consistency?
That is definitely a tension that we feel on my team. And I know all performance marketers feel that way because these tools are so powerful, and it's really incredible the lift in conversion performance or efficiency that you can get with them. And as performance marketers, we're really hardwired to want to drive that best possible performance. We're chasing that optimization. But an effective strategist would never write or optimize a headline or an ad that goes against your brand values or how you want to be perceived, even if it had the highest click-through rate you've ever seen. So the same goes for the standards that we hold these AI algorithms to. Working with AI is a skill set, and it's one that you can grow and you can invest in making yourself more effective with. AI is a tool. It's not your strategist. So you don't just hand it the keys and walk away. You give it a very specific, well-defined sandbox to play in. So for us in higher ed, that sandbox is our brand guidelines, it's our messaging strategy framework. And before we even let these tools run, we have to invest time in building a strong foundation with those elements. So a library of high-quality approved assets, clear guardrails around acceptable and unacceptable phrases, abbreviations that aren't compliant, etc. And it also means having a human strategist in the loop who can think critically and make judgments and intervene where necessary, because that is the human value that is still added to this equation. The AI algorithms can see so many different signals to optimize to that a human cannot, so they're inherently going to be better at that. But we as humans understand the soul of our brand, essentially, and know how to express that in a way that is not just performing one way or the other, but it's actually representing us as brands the way that we know we need to be.
Hey, it's Mallory. Quick break for anyone thinking about what AI really means for higher ed. The next step isn't smarter tools, it's a smarter team. Imagine support that never sleeps, help in 100 languages, answers at midnight, follow-ups before morning. That's what a digital workforce brings to higher ed, and it's already happening with Bolt agents from Element 451. Come see it live at the Engage Summit this June. Register at enrollify.org/engage and use code ENGAGE50 to get $50 off. All right, back to the show. So with all of these changes, that line between paid and organic is quite blurry. And if I'm sitting on a team, I probably need to rethink campaign planning, because AI is going to control both the ad delivery and the organic snippets. And I love what you just said about making sure there's that human strategist in the loop to keep the soul of campaigns. But, you know, what advice would you give to a higher ed marketer who, you know, is feeling some of that lack of control? And like, how would you recommend they rethink their strategies?
The silos between these channels have to come down, period. And we've talked about that for years in this industry. How do we better integrate our SEO and our paid search or our paid social with our organic social? But this is the moment where it's no longer optional. And if you have a media team and an SEO team that never collaborate, they never strategize together, you're already behind. And I often see this in higher ed, not just between channel teams, but also with segments beneath an overarching organization. If you have a particular marketing budget or marketing team that is narrowly focused on an individual program or even a school of, that can become infinitely more challenging in this new era where we've got AI kind of optimizing this holistic performance of your brand and the student experience of your brand. So it's so important that campaign planning be a united effort. Your SEO team is going to have the richest data about what prospective students are looking for, what behaviors they're taking on your website, while your social media team is going to really understand community sentiment and values. And your paid media team has vast amounts of data on keywords and creatives and the elements that drive prospective students to take action. So all of those elements need to be woven together, and you need a continuous feedback loop across those channels as well as across your entire marketing ecosystem, whether that is as a holistic marketing team or with multiple segments underneath of that. Because the AI doesn't see paid or organic. It doesn't see College of Business, this program versus that program. It sees a prospective student with a question who is interested in your institution. So our teams really need to adopt that same holistic viewpoint and approach campaign planning, performance optimization, and media planning from that point of view.
That's great advice. And hey, AI can actually help with all the analysis of all of the different data points across all these different components, and lift that off of an individual's plate. I know Sarah, I know there's someone out there listening. They're like, all right, collaboration. We need a new committee on this one. So are you advocating for another committee? No, I'm kidding.
No more task forces, no more committees. Just people, hands on keyboards, getting work done.
All right. So this has been such a good conversation, but where's the risk, right? If I move too fast, if I adopt an AI-led media strategy too quickly, is that going to come at the expense of something? Like where is the place where we need to actually pause and hit the brakes here?
Absolutely. There are definitely risks. And this is where more cautious nature can really be an asset, because there are clear compliance implications that we need to think about. An AI algorithm is going to optimize for clicks or conversions, and in doing so, it could inadvertently optimize or create ad copy that uses promissory language about career outcomes, or maybe oversimplifies the complexities of financial aid in a way that's misleading. And that isn't going to be a good reflection, obviously, of your brand at best, and at worst, it can be a real issue for schools. And then there's the messaging component, as we talked about. To a prospective student, the university really needs to speak with one voice. But if you're relying too heavily on AI and you don't have that collaborative planning aspect, that can lead to different messages being communicated to prospective students across different platforms or at different times. And that can be really confusing. And a disjointed brand experience is not what you want to be creating. So the key, again, really comes down to having these tight controls and a clear role for human oversight. I am very adamant about the fact that while I don't believe in marketing, our jobs will necessarily be replaced by AI, I think our jobs fundamentally have to evolve in order to work best with AI. So a lot of those more automated tasks, the functions that a machine can do really well, we want the AI to be driving, but that just creates a new need for human oversight and critical thinking and understanding of the brand, and being able to build that ecosystem to see AI as an opportunity to level up your human capital rather than replace it, I think is really the approach that I would recommend.
Yeah. So listeners, if any of this is striking a chord for you, I have to give a plug for the upcoming Engage Summit that Element 451 is hosting at the end of this month. If you are listening to this episode around the time that it's dropped, you can go to enrollify.org/engage and register for a virtual pass to this event for free. Let me say that one more time. For free. You are going going to get every single session. This is an AI event, right? You are going to be able to stream every single session in Keynote without spending a penny. And they will send you the on-demand recordings after the event. So even if you're like, hey, I'm like going to be in Paris the last week of June. Cool. Go to Paris, sign up, and you can go watch all the recordings when you get back. And there are going to be sessions around this very topic that I know you're not going to want to miss. Now, Sarah, before we hit the stop button on this record, I even just thinking about the agenda for the Engage Summit, there's so much coming at marketing and communication teams right now. Like, it is so overwhelming. AI is moving so fast. And here we are, it's the summer. Every now and then we do get to take a deep breath in these summer months. So if you could wave your magic wand right before we hit record, Sarah told me she just saw the Wicked musical. So here we are. Sarah is now Elphaba. She is waving her magic wand. Every institution, Sarah, if you could have them fix or improve just one thing in their search or media strategy this summer, what would it be?
If I had a magic wand, I think my wish would be for every institution to really understand how to leverage their first-party data. I think this is a huge gap across a lot of higher ed marketing because we're operating in this world where third-party cookies are incomplete and data and privacy regulations are more rigid. And AI is making some parts of the marketing funnel and optimization less transparent. So in this space, your own data, your CRM data, your website analytics, your advertising data, that is going to be your single greatest asset. It's unique to you. It is going to be the source of truth that you can iterate so many things off of. And I've heard so many marketing teams express concern about how do we navigate this really volatile time that we're experiencing. And I truly believe that the key to finding stability in this environment is using your data intelligently. It should be the foundation for everything, from your AI usage to your marketing optimization. And when you have a really strong command of your data, that's when you can build more resilient models, create smarter audience segments, feed more valuable conversion data into your optimization algorithms. If you have your data under control, you're going to be much better positioned for riding some of these waves a little bit more easily and being ready for whatever comes next.
There it is. Step one, go fix the data. If you don't need to fix it, go look at the data. Use AI to help analyze the data.
Clean it up, understand it. Absolutely.
Amen. I love that. That's the note we are ending on. Sarah, it was an absolute pleasure having you on The Pulse today. Thank you for your time and lending your expertise. Listeners, that URL is enrollify.org/engage. Run, don't walk. Sign up, and we will see you at the summit. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.